So with the drum kit, while we have the option to just use one submix and mix all the drums into it, there are a lot of ways where we want to route the drum kit for future processing. Let me explain. So let's take this project, for example. As you can see, I have 2 microphones for the bass drum. Now, it would make a lot of sense if both of these tracks will be routed to the same place. This will save a lot of time because we can apply the same processing to both of the channels, and we can also apply the processing to each of them separately if we want to have the change. But it will give us a lot of control over the instrument of the bass drum as a whole, rather than every time adjust the volume of 2 different channels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create another group track, and I'm going to configure it into mono. I'm doing it in mono because usually bass drums and snares, and that's just a generalization, but in many of the cases, they're going to be mixed in mono, in the center. There are different cases that will do something different, where an engineer will try this something different, but usually that is the case. So I'm going to create this kick group, and I'm going to route both of my bass drum tracks into it. Now, if I'm going to go in and solo on my kick group, I'm going to just get the kick channel. And when I'm listening to the entire drum kit, I can just reduce the volume of the kick or bring it up instead of taking care of each channel individually. The next channel to do it is obviously the snare. So let's add a group channel and call it snare. Same like the bass drum, I like to mix it in mono. So I go here and I send both of my snare tracks into the snare folder. And I can do it with each of the different instruments. So for example, if I have my hi-hat and ride, sometimes they will work as one group called cymbals. That is also very helpful because sometimes we want to reduce or increase the volume of all the cymbals at the same time. So I'm going to go here and create a group channel. However, I am going to do it in stereo. The reason why I do the cymbals in stereo is because sometimes I like to position them in different places in the stereo field. Sometimes the hi-hat will be in the left side or the right side, and I want to be able to capture that panning even if I am going to apply some group processing. So I'm going to have this thing called cymbals, and I'm going to send the hi-hat and ride into that. Same thing goes to overheads. So I'm going to create something called overheads. And the last one is the toms. So after I created all of those group channels for the different pieces of the drums or different sections of the drum kit, I can assign all of them into the final group track, which will be the overall drum track. So I can go and assign both the kick, the snares, cymbals, overheads, and toms, and send them into the group called drums. Now this is very important for our signal flow because sometimes we want to apply processing on different stages. Sometimes we want to have a compressor just on the toms, but not on the entire drum kit. But sometimes we do want to add reverb for the entirety of the drum kit, which includes the toms and each of the individual tracks of the toms. So it's important that we understand the signal flow and the structure of how we route things because this is going to make a lot of impact on the sound as we move along.